want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your Friday afternoon to do this webinar. I know that there were some questions in regards to why I picked Friday afternoon, but we wanted to get this done for you as soon as possible, and with schedules, this was it, unless we were looking to mid to late October. So yesterday, Jennifer and myself met with Tracy and discussed the reasoning behind the webinar and what we wanted to see and what our thought process was as far as going through the webinar itself. And initially, I know we had talked about that that Jennifer and I would do the webinar and have Therap behind the scenes pushing provider buttons so you would all see what the response is when the provider responds back to you sending over a referral or a pre-auth. But since you all have familiarized yourselves a little bit more with the system itself, it sounds like there have been quite a few questions in regards to what is it that the provider sees? How are they notified that I'm sending this information over? So through Tracy's demonstration, what she is going to show you, she has the capacity to open it up in 2 different browsers. So she will walk us through both processes as far as us on the LTSS side and then what the provider sees on their side, but she won't have to be logging in and out. She'll stay within the system. Then when we get done doing the overall overview of both LTSS and providers, she'll walk us through again just on our side. So we'll have plenty of options for walk-through examples. Jennifer and I will be monitoring the chat box with any questions. If there is a systems question, we will certainly ask Tracy as she's the expert. If there's a policy question, we'll try and field those as much as possible as well. We do ask, though, that we try and keep the questions solely just to the pre-auth and referral process at this time during this webinar. We are recording this webinar, so it will be available at any time. We'll just have to let you know where that's going to be housed, though. Right now, we've had some questions about that. If there are things, though, that you do have questions on as far as in regards to Therap in general, we will definitely take note of those and follow up as we go in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tracy.
Okay. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So where I'm going to start is, as you can see, this should look similar to what you have in your oversight account. On mine, because this is a demonstration, I have a lot turned on. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start in that referral section. So just know as I go through this referral, it's not going to look exactly like yours, especially when it comes to that checklist. That's where it's really going to be different, is this is just kind of a sample checklist versus what you have. So you come in here and we click on New. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select an individual that I created yesterday. So this is going to be Charlotte Baker. So as you know, you're going in and you're selecting that name. You're going in and you're putting in that anticipated admission date, so the date that they need to begin doing services. So maybe this is a quick turnaround and it's going to start on Monday. And then you're selecting your notification level. You have that ability to, or should, I would hope, do that regional if it's a Central Eastern. For this demonstration, I'm going to keep it referred to a specific provider. So this way you can see exactly what the provider has for options and what they're doing on their end. So under the recipient provider, I'm going to select my provider. So I'm using a demo 2 is the name of my account. And then here we just have our oversight agency of that Therap multi-provider. So this is just my demonstration. Down here is that service description that you have. So this is where you can list any information. So we could say this is for assisted living.
Tracy, while you're typing that in, I forgot to tell you yesterday, for those of you that are on the line as well, the service description box in the referral is also, you'll put the SID number in there as well. And then in addition, in the pre-auth under the service description, the SID number will be included there too. I know there's been a lot of questions that have, that's brought up a lot of questions before.
Okay, so here I just went ahead and I just did like a SID number and just kind of just as a placeholder. So here's where you can put all of that information. You've got about 3,000 characters that you can type into this box. Down here is your referral packet or your checklist. So I believe, so you have probably about 3 options and it kind of lists out, here's what it is specific to South Dakota. Over here, this is where you're adding your files. So if I come in here and I just click on my add file and I'm going to browse. And I'm just going to attach like some user guides that I have. So here's like my list of all roles. Here I can put in a description if I need to. You know, this could be maybe like it's a checklist. And then I just click on upload. So on your side, you just see all of this as black. And I'll show, you're going to see here in a minute exactly what this looks like on the provider side. Down here, keep in mind that if you need to attach other files, all you have to do is click on this button to attach other files, and it's just going to come up as other, and you can continue to add whatever files you need to add. So that's definitely a nice feature. If there's any additional comments that you want to make, if you ran out of that room up there, you can always come down and put in additional comments. Once you click on this send referral, it just comes up and says, you know, we're going to send this to this specified provider, and I'm just going to click on OK, and it's going to come up and it's going to say, okay, this has now been successfully sent to the provider. I'm going to switch over now to my provider account. So this is basically a demo of what a provider account looks like. They're going to come up here to their to-do tab, and they're going to see this referral. So it's going to come over to them as a work list. So that work list is basically listing all of those referrals that they're receiving from you. So when I open up this work list, here's Charlotte, and it kind of gives them just a little bit basic information, and they're going to open it. So it looks basically identical to what you just created. The only difference is down here under the attachments, this is now a blue link. So this is how they can open up that file. They can save it to their computer. They can just look at it, whatever they need to do. Their options down here at the bottom is if they have additional questions, they can go ahead and put in those questions, and they would click on that update referral. That's what's going to send the questions back to you, is that update referral. Then they have the option that they can either accept this or they can deny it. So they've been instructed that if they deny it, they need to go up here to this denial reason, and they need to select the options that they have. I've also told them that if they need to provide additional information, go ahead and provide that down here in the comments for denials. In this case, we'll go ahead and we'll just accept it. So on their end, they're going to go ahead and click on accept. So they get this message, this has now been successfully accepted. We're going to come back over here, and we're back on our oversight account. So we're back here on our state account. We come back down here underneath the referral, and you'll now see that it's been accepted by the recipient provider. So again, you're going to be able to open up your list. Here's Charlotte. If they have any questions, and now you're going to be able to decide, am I going to select them to provide the services? Am I going to deny them and I'm going with another provider? This is what your choice is. When you accept that provider to provide the services, I'm going to go ahead and click here on accept. It's going to send it back to the provider. Here in the provider account, I'm going to click on my dashboard, and underneath their to-do, they're now going to see referral, and they're going to see that they were selected by oversight. So again, they're going to open that up and then open up this referral for Charlotte. Once they've been selected, they're going to come down here, and this is where they admit that individual. So this is where how they're adding it to their account. So they're admitting that individual. You have one last step, which is to close the referral. And here's why I kind of want to show you why this last step is important. If I go now into their list of individuals, and we bring up Charlotte that they admitted, down here they have a section that's called Oversight. And you're going to notice here right now that that Oversight ID is blank, and that's just because they've accepted it. When you close that referral, that's what adds that Oversight ID. So if I come back over here, and we're right here back in our state account, and again, I'm going to go back down to this referral section, and you're going to see that that admission's been completed. So they've admitted Charlotte. Your last step to come in here is to now close this referral. So I'm going to click on that close. Here's what happens on the provider side. So we're back here on our provider side. Here's that Oversight ID that's blank. We've closed this referral. I'm going to do a refresh. When you close it, this ID is now added into their account. This ID is what allows both them and you now to do that individual care only SCOM. So if you have to send additional documents to them that's specific to Charlotte, this is what allows that. So this is what's creating that linkage. So it allows you to be able to see into this provider's account regarding Charlotte, and it allows the provider to be able to send you those SCOMs regarding Charlotte if they do that individual care only. So that's why that close process is really important. They're going to get one last notification. So if I come up here to my to-do, here's that acknowledgement list. So it just comes into them as an acknowledgement, and they can come in, they will see that it's closed. If they open it, they can just come down here and click on acknowledge. So they know, okay, you've closed it. I know that you've done that. That acknowledgement is basically just what removes it from their to-do tab. They always have access to the referrals that you have sent them. So underneath their admin, they're going to be able to come down here under what we call a care section. So this is kind of where they can look at all of the clients that are in their account or individuals. And here's that referral. So they can always come in here and do this referral search. If they're looking for a specific name, they can put in this name. Otherwise, they can just do a blanket search. And this is going to show them all of the referrals that they have received, the current status. And again, they can come in and open up this referral, and they always have access to these documents and any of this communication that you've had back and forth regarding this specific individual. So this is what it looks like on the provider side. Now, just like you, they can set up notifications as to when they get those referrals. So again, they're going into their settings just like you are able to do. And underneath their notification profile, they can click on referral. And then they have the option to decide, when do I want to make sure that I get notified that I have a referral? My suggestions to all of them that have been setting this up is to go ahead and click on the Send to Provider when they are selected by you to provide those services, when this service authorization is closed, and then this update. So if there's any questions that you're sending them, they're still able to see that they have a question or that you've replied to a question that they have had. And down here, this is where they select, how do I want to get that notification? So they can have it sent to their email, and the majority of them are doing that email, or they can have it done through an SCOM. So that's the referral process and what it looks like based on your side, and then what that provider sees. So a couple of questions have come up is, do we need the CID even for waiver consumers?
This is Jennifer. I can answer that. No, SID number is only needed for those that need that for billing, such as in-home services, caregiver services, etc.
So the next question that come up was, why wouldn't they select discontinue? Is that for terminating services? And this is in regards to receiving notification of discontinuing services. They can definitely select that discontinue. If they ever want to go in and see follow up on a status of a referral, they can go in and do that referral search. Basically, I don't know how often you're going to click that discontinue. I did explain to them that that discontinue could probably happen anytime during the process if something has come up and that referral is not going to be made ultimately. So it's basically stopping that referral in whatever stage it was in, and it's not moving forward.
Tracy, this is Jen. I apologize about that. Nothing is coming up in my chat box.
Okay. So Angie, does that answer your question? Okay, perfect. So the next question is coming up is, we only need to do the referral process for new services, not for annuals, correct? And that would be correct, because once you have referred that individual into their account, you're basically done, because that's the point of doing that referral, is it's actually admitting them into that provider account. Other questions on the referral? The next one is, if I haven't done this with any of my consumers, do I need to now? So if it's for brand new individuals that are not in that provider's account, yes. Okay, any other questions? And you all have had some really great questions, so thank you. Okay. There's no other questions. So if you'd like, we can go back through this again from your side, and then this way I'm not going to be bouncing back and forth between screens. All I'm going to do is I will stay in that state account and just kind of, we can go through this again. So give me just 1 second. I'm going to take this one here. There we go. Okay. So here we have all of your list of referrals. So again, it's just selecting an individual. So we're going to use Christopher Martin. We'll use like an October 7th date, so we'll kind of give this a week. Again, down here, I'm just kind of selecting my provider. So we have our service description. Here's where you can add all of the files that are needed, if it's a task list, if it's a checklist, whatever is needed that you've been currently sending. So again, you're just browsing for that information. So now I've uploaded the file. Again, down here, if I needed to attach additional files, I definitely have that ability to do that. So down here, it's just showing all of that information. And then now I can send this referral. So here on our dashboard, I'm going to do a refresh, so we're just staying right within our state account. And down here under referrals, once I click on this accepted by recipient provider, let's give it another refresh. Here's Christopher Martin that was accepted by that provider that we sent it to. So we're opening it up, and then down here we're just scrolling down, and we're going to go ahead and accept this. So that acceptance has been sent back to the provider. Again, I'm just going to come down here to my referral. We're going to see that this admission completed has changed to 2, so this is always going to show you all of those admissions that have been completed. So here's Christopher. So now I can open it, and then I can close it. And then that referral process is completely done. Down here, if you have any questions that come in, they'll all come in underneath your acknowledgement list. And that's where you can kind of see that you have questions, and that will allow you to kind of respond. So any questions on referrals before we move over to the service authorizations? So the question is, can you give an example of an annual review of an existing consumer and how you upload documents? Some providers are having difficulty viewing documents in document storage for an existing consumer. So it depends on, so let me ask the question is, for those annual reviews, are you using document storage to place those in within the provider account, or are you going in and doing that SCOM? Because you can, for those annual reviews, is you could go in and you could do this secure communication and send those documents that way. And again, for those secure communications, you can just come in and compose, especially if it's for a specific individual. You could come in here and let's go ahead and we'll select Charlotte. So here's Charlotte. I can go ahead and bring up my name. So this is where it goes. And then down here, we have all of these documents. And I will double check because I believe document storage, you should be able to select from a document storage and be able to attach those files, or down here is your external attachments. And this would be a great way to send those over. One of the other questions that came up, let's see if I can go back to my questions, is there any reason any longer to be doing quick referrals? My thinking on your quick referrals, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is I would say your quick referrals will probably come into play when the hospital has, or a rehabilitation center has contacted a provider directly and said, hey, can you go ahead and provide services? So the provider has already started providing those services, and then it becomes determined that that individual is eligible for waiver services. So if that provider already has that individual and providing services, to me, that's when you would do that quick referral. You would just go ahead and say, great, you're providing the services, they're now eligible for waiver, so we'll just do a quick referral.
Tracy, can you explain to us quick what the pros and cons are between using a quick referral or the long referral? For example, even if it wasn't under the example you used as far as the individual being in the hospital or having a rehab facility, but if it's maybe there's only one provider in that area and the specialist and the provider have already communicated and the provider says, oh yeah, absolutely, we can support that person. Is that an instance where we could use a quick referral? And if we do, what are we missing out on anything had we have used the referral and the long referral instead?
So the nice thing about the quick referral is you don't have to go back and do that back and forth. Basically, when you're doing that quick referral, you're basically automatically admitting that individual. What you're missing out on of doing that long referral is if there's documentation that the provider needs, because then that referral is providing that documentation. The other nice thing about the long referral is if there is questions, then you have everything together in one place instead of a string of SCOMs or different SCOMs going back and forth. And, you know, if something happens and someone's coming back and go, well, I want to see what that communication was. You're not trying to scramble to find all of this documentation that may have been sent, you know, via this SCOM or that SCOM. That's the nice thing about the referral is everything is all in that one place. But just like in the example you provided, if it's just, you know, it's going to one provider and they've said, yes, let's go ahead and I'll provide the services, you can definitely do that quick referral and just automatically put it in their account. So the next question came up is I'm not seeing any providers to send SCOMs to. Part of the issue that is happening is part of the training is providers were asked to go into their account and they were asked to set up to give themselves what we call a super role and a caseload. So basically, kind of explaining these terms to you, when I talk about a super role on a provider site, it's basically designating, here's the modules within Therap that you can see, and within these modules, here's what you can do. So that's what that super role designates. Caseload is basically saying, here's the clients or individuals that you're able to see within your account. So with some of our large providers, like Avera, we'll just use Avera as a good example. Because they're all in one account, instead of every location being able to see, you know, the 100 individuals that are in their account, a caseload is set up to where they only see those specific individuals for their location. So it kind of just narrows down who they're able to see within Therap. As part of that, their user privileges, they actually have to check a multi-provider SCOM checkbox. And that's how you're able to see them. That's how they're able to send SCOMs outside of their agency. If they don't have that multi-provider SCOM selected, you're not going to be able to see them within your SCOMs. I would say if you're running into that, send me a list. You know, hey, I have all, you know, this list of providers and I'm not able to see them. What I can do is I can always go in and select that multi-provider checkbox that they're missing. Any other questions? Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to move into a pre-auth. So again, with your pre-auth, you're going in and you're selecting new. So these are the unit allocations now that instead of the providers getting a fax, we're just now doing it through Therap. So we'll go ahead and we'll select Charlotte because she's now admitted over into the account. And the first page is bringing up all of her information, and this is based on how she was admitted into your state account. And we're going to create that pre-auth. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select that program. So I'm just going to use kind of this Therap waiver just for this example, because it's going to kind of mimic a little bit more of what you're used to seeing. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. And then it's going to come in here and it's going to ask me for my service. So I'm just going to say this is in-home services, and now I'm putting in the dates. And maybe this is good for 2 months. So it's just good for October through November. A lot of yours you can be sending and they're good for the entire year. So here we're putting in those total units, that service amount. Anything with that red asterisk you know is required. So we know this is a unit of measure. And then down here again, this is where you can be putting that CID number. So anything that you're putting here in this description field, this is what the provider sees on that service auth. Down here where it says non-shareable, make sure you do not select this box. If this is non-shareable, it basically means this will not go over to the provider. So we just want to leave this blank because we want the provider to see this. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. So now it's asking me to select that provider. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Next again. And then it's going to ask me for my rate amount. And I'm just going to put in a number. And then here I'm going to save it. So once it's saved, that basically means I'm done. You'll have to come back in and you're going to submit this. Now I have the permission to be able to go in and approve, so I can click back on this form and I can come down here and I can click on approve. It's when you click on this approve button, this is when the provider sees this authorization. So that's when it comes up and says, okay, now this has been sent to the provider. So let me come back over to my other dashboard and let me have this to where I can share it. So in their to-do list, in a provider account, they're going to have these pre-auth service authorizations. So this is where they're going to come in, and let me refresh this. It may take a minute for Charlotte's to come over. But this is where they're going to come in and they're going to be able to say, okay, here's Ava. And this is what they're seeing on their end. So anything you put in that description is what they see right down here. So they do see these units, the amount, the service amount, and that unit of measure. And what I've been instructing them to do is go ahead and click on that acknowledge button. So this way, if you're going in and taking a look to see if they've even looked at that service authorization. It's showing as being acknowledged. The way you're coming in to see those is you're coming in here to this individual tab, and you're doing the service authorization and search. So again, you can look for a specific individual. I can just click here on the search, and here's all of these authorizations. So here's just the one for Charlotte that we just did. She finally came over. Ugh. Let's see if it'll let me in. Nope. Sorry, there's times where Therap's going to do that to you. Just log out and log back in. That's what will allow you to open that up. But again, you can see here's all of those acknowledgments. So over here, you can see, okay, for Ava's, it was acknowledged. That means they've opened it up and looked at it. Pending acknowledgement means they haven't clicked on that acknowledgement button. So a couple of questions that are coming up is, will we need to put billing codes in the description and NPI numbers? So I'm going to say yes, that at this point you're going to have to put those billing codes. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. For now, until we get switched over to billing. If that's not correct, Jennifer, do you want to correct me?
Nope, that sounds correct.
The next question is there a way to save the, to have the CID auto-populate into the referral and the pre-auth? I can tell you right now from a Therap side, no, there's not a way to have that auto-populate right now.
Just for our staff's benefit too, that CID number is going to be a thing of the past in the next couple of months. So this is just kind of a temporary workaround until the billing is going through Therap. Then the CID number will basically cease to exist.
The next question is, can Therap support 2 pre-auths during the same overlapping time period? For instance, if someone is receiving a specific service but needs an increase in that service for a short time, can we create another pre-auth with the same service within the same time? What you would
I can take that one, Tracy. We have been in talks. We talked about this at our live in-person visit as well, and Therap is trying to look at how that can be a possibility. They're looking at different options to make that work. So we're working on that.
One of the things that I want to show you is I'm going to go back over to your normal state account. And let's say that you need to make a change to that pre-auth. So I can come in here and let's go ahead and we'll just do a search. And I'm going to bring up Ava because I know that I've already acknowledged that service authorization. And let's just go ahead and do a search. So here's Ava, and here is this in-home services. So I can go ahead and open it up. And down here, you have that edit button. So I can come in here, and right now I can edit. At this point in time, I will tell you, you're only able to change the total units. That service amount right now is not a field that can be changed. We've already started that discussion of getting this field to where possibly to be editable. I will tell you that is something I started yesterday, so those discussions are now happening. So this could be one that you're coming in and maybe, you know, for some reason the in-home services are only going to be for November. So I can come in and I can change the service date. At this point, I could come in and I could change the total units. And maybe it's just 150. I would say right now for the workaround is come down here and in the description, add a note that says, you know, the service amount is changing to X. So this way they can still see, okay, the service amount is changing. Down here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this update. If you go back to this form, you want to treat this just like you would a brand new service authorization that you were creating. So here you can see the updates. Come down here and click on Submit. What this is going to do is this is going to go back through that approval process. So here again on the form, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, okay, I've reviewed the changes. I'm going to click on this Approve. So now it said, okay, this has now been sent back to that provider. So if I come back here now, and I'm back in my provider account, if you notice here under my pre-auth service authorizations, I now have a pending update acknowledgement. So this is how that provider is going to see, okay, there's been a change made to one of my service authorization, because it's going to say it's a pending update. Now when they open it, they can come in here and see, okay, this is now from November only. Here's the new total units. Down here in that description, if we had added that note, they would be able to see, okay, that service or that, that service amount has now been changed, and they can acknowledge it. So that basically gives them that change. So when you're doing that update, you're changing it, even if you're indating it. Just treat it like you would that new pre-auth of going in and submitting it, letting it get approved. And then this is how it will come over to the provider to let them know you've had changes made to your service authorization. So I could go ahead and click on Save. Again, if I came in and did a search, and let's just bring up Ava. And then here's that updated service authorization. So the question came up is, will Therap eventually remove the submit button so we can go straight to approval? I can tell you probably not, because there is situations where we have other areas where, you know, instead of being able to approve those, it may go to someone else that has to do that approval. So that's why we have in there that submit button. The next question is, will the provider be updated if we only change the end date? If you change the end date, as long as you go through and you've made that update and you go in and submit and approve it, then yes, they would see that that end date has been changed. But you have to go through that process of submitting it and approving it for them to see that updated service authorization. Any other questions? there anything else you would like me to cover this afternoon? So it looks like, so we have a couple of more questions coming in. So termination of services. For termination of services, you would definitely want to do that end date of the service authorizations. One of the things I'm checking on from our side is if you go in and you would discharge an individual, I'm working to see if we can have that added as an option for providers to get notified if you did a discharge. Right now, there's not that, they don't see that visibility, but that is something that I'm asking.
If they, Tracy, just to clarify that, if they're discharged though and the service authorization is closed out, couldn't, in the service description box, couldn't they write discharged on November or September 31st or whatever the case may be, and then the provider would be notified of a discharge through that updated pre-auth?
Yes, absolutely. As long as you're putting in that description box, yes, then the provider would definitely see it. So Jen and Jennifer, this will be a question for you, is what unit should we be using for ALW, weekly, monthly?
Misty had just forwarded an email out in regards to that question, and the waiver committee is going to have to be looking at that. They're hoping to get an answer sooner than later, obviously, but that is something that the waiver committee is going to need to discuss based off of what's written into the waiver right now.
The next question, if the provider is not on Therap and we are sending authorizations through Therap, when do they become live? Will they get all of the previous authorizations? So as long as their account is currently set up in Therap and you can select them, you can definitely continue sending those authorizations. And once they get their login credentials, yes, they would have it. If you're not able to select them right now, then no, they wouldn't see anything that you've been sending. But as long as you're able to select them right now within that pre-auth, you are definitely sending those over. And then again, once they get logged in, they would see those service authorizations.
Tracy, can we circle back around to that question in regards to the waiver rate? Can you read that question to me one more time?
If the provider is not on Therap and we are sending...
Nope, the one before that. I'm sorry, that talked about what rate to use.
Yeah, what unit should we be using for ALW weekly, monthly?
I just got confirmation from Yvette that that's a daily rate.
So the next question is, when is the link individuals with oversight ID used? That is basically going to be used in situations where instead of going through the referral process, the provider went in and manually added the individual into their account. And that link individual with oversight ID is how we would be able to go in and assign that oversight ID to that provider account. So that way we link the individual that they manually added with the oversight. I'm really hoping right now, because we have not taught any of the providers how to do that, that hopefully will not happen. The next question is, what is the daily rate for ALW?
Jennifer, I'm going to have to lean on you for that one. I think that isn't there a rate sheet that people have?
It doesn't have the daily rate on it. We'll have to confirm that, and then we'll have to send that out at a later time, hopefully as soon as possible.
Okay, at this point, there's no new questions. Barb Wachowski replied back that the daily rate is $50.25. Angie said, I show $50.25 for daily ALW rate effective April 1st, 2019.
Well, thank you again, Tracy, for taking time to give us this webinar and this walkthrough. We really appreciate it. And thank you also for taping it. Again, for everybody, it is, we will have access to it, and we'll let you know where that's going to be housed. And also want to just clarify that yes, we do believe that those rates are on a rate sheet, but we'll make sure that everybody has those if we need to resubmit them. And again, Tracy, thank you so much. I hope this was helpful to everyone, and have a great weekend.
Well, you're very welcome. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.